Hello, welcome to the course in Data Governance and today's lecture on Organizational Change Management. I am Linus, and today's table of contents are Data Governance and Organizational Change, the formula for change, laws of change, managing a transition, Kotter's 8 errors of change management, Kotter's 8-stage process for major change, and we will round out with the sources. So, getting started. Data governance and organizational change. Improving data management and implementing data governance requires changing the way people work together and how they understand the role of data in their organization. Change, however, is hard. Understanding change management is a crucial part of a successful data governance effort, especially understanding why change fails, the triggers for effective change, the barriers to change, and how people experience change. The formula for change. The Gleicher formula shown above is a famous recipe required for effective change. In the formula we see C, that stands for change, D as dissatisfaction with the status quo, V is a vision for a better alternative, F is the first steps to get there, and R is the resistance to change. So the change equals the dissatisfaction, the vision and the first steps multiplied, and if they are greater than the resistance, then there will be a change. So influencing any of these 4 variables in the formula increases the effectiveness and success of the change effort. However, as with any complex machine, the variables may influence each other in predictable ways. For example, increasing dissatisfaction too much may actually increase resistance, and a poorly formulated vision might alienate people. Laws of change. Change management experts recognize a set of laws of change. Organizations don't change, people change. Change takes place when people behave differently because they recognize the value of doing so. People don't resist change, they resist being changed. People are more likely to change if they have been engaged in defining the change and if they understand the vision driving the change. Things are the way they are because they got that way. At some point in the past, the current business requirements, processes, and systems were defined by someone, and understanding historic reasons help avoiding past mistakes. Unless there is push to change, things will likely stay the same. If you want an improvement, something must be done differently. Change would be easy if it weren't for all the people. The challenge of change comes in dealing with the natural variation that arises in people. Managing a transition. Change management expert William Bridges emphasizes the importance of transition, and here he defines transitions as the psychological process that people go through to come to terms with a new situation. According to Bridges, change involves moving through 3 distinct phases: the ending, the neutral zone, and the beginning. Most organizational changes fail because not enough attention is paid to the ending phase and the neutral zone, jumping straight to the beginning phase. When experiencing change, all people go through all stages, but at different speeds. The ending. The ending phase is characterized as when we acknowledge that there are things we need to let go of, and when we recognize that we have lost something. An example is changing jobs. Even if it can be a positive experience, there are still losses, such as losing close working friends. As losses are subjective, it is important not to argue with people about how they perceive the loss, expect and accept signs of grieving. Treat the past with respect. Give people information over and over again in a variety of ways. The neutral zone. The neutral zone is characterized as when the old way has finished but the new way isn't here yet, and when everything is in flux and it feels like no one knows what they should be doing, and when things are confusing and disorderly. An example might be moving house. For a period of time, the new place isn't home yet, and things are more chaotic than usual. To combat the feeling of insecurity, get people involved and working together, and give them time and space to experiment and test new ideas. The plan, do, check, act model encourages trying new things and helps learning from each cycle. Give people information over and over again in a variety of ways. The beginning. The beginning stage is characterized as when the new way feels comfortable, right, and the only way. An example, having a baby. After a time in the neutral zone of turmoil, it is impossible to imagine a life without a baby. Do not force a beginning before its time. Ensure people know what part they are to play in the new system. Plan to celebrate a new beginning and give credit to those who have made the change. And, again, give people information over and over again in a variety of ways. Kotter's 8 errors of change management. Change management expert John P. Kotter outlines 8 reasons why organizations fail to execute change. 1. Allowing too much complacency. 2. Failing to create a sufficiently powerful guiding coalition. 3. Underestimating the power of vision. 4. Under-communicating the vision. 5. Permitting obstacles to block the vision. 6. Failing to create short-term wins. 7. Declaring victory too soon. And the final and 8th error, neglecting to anchor changes firmly in the corporate culture. Let's have a look at some of these errors, starting with allowing too much complacency. In the context of change management, complacency is understood as the opposite of urgency. And according to Kotter, the biggest mistake people make when trying to implement change is to plunge ahead without first establishing a high enough sense of urgency. Creating a sense of urgency is related to driving up dissatisfaction in the Gleiche formula in section 3. Mistakes often made by change managers include overestimating their ability to force big changes on the organization, underestimating how hard it can be for people to move out of their comfort zones, kicking off change activities without sufficient communication of what change is required or why, confuse urgency with anxiety, leading to fear and resistance. And here we see some example scenarios and how a lack of urgency or too much complacency can manifest. As a response to a regulatory change, there might be the response of "we're okay, we haven't been fined under the current rules." And in a response to business change, the response might be "we've been supporting the business successfully for years, we'll be okay." A response to a technology change might be "that new technology is unproven, our current systems are stable and we know how to work around issues." And a response to problems or errors might be that "we can assign a troubleshooting team to that and patch the issues up. There are bound to be some people available in some department or team." The second error, failing to create a sufficiently powerful guiding coalition. Major change is almost impossible without the active support from the head of the organization. A guiding coalition is a powerful and enthusiastic team of volunteers from across the organization that helps to put new strategies into effect and transform the organization. A key challenge is identifying who needs to be involved, and we will come back to the guiding coalition in section 6.4. The third error is underestimating the power of vision. Urgency and a strong guidance council are useless without a clear, sensible vision of the future. The vision provides the context of the change effort. And a vision is not the same thing as planning or program management. A vision is a clear and compelling statement of where the change is heading. An example of a well-formulated vision and the context of in the context of data governance might be as follows. We will improve the accuracy and timeliness of financial reports and make them more readily available to all stakeholders. Improved understanding of how data flows into and out of our reporting processes will support trust in our numbers, save time, and reduce unnecessary stress during end-of-period processes. We will take our first step to achieve this by implementing some system by the end of the first quarter. The fourth error is under-communicating the vision. Defining the vision is an important first step, but an unnecessary step if the vision is then not communicated consistently. Another important part is for change managers to act according to the vision, communicating in deeds as well as words. The fifth error, permitting obstacles to block the vision. Even if people fully embrace the need for change, there might be obstacles in the way. As part of its transformation, the organization must respond to different kinds of roadblocks. They might be psychological. Do the roadblocks stem from fear, lack of knowledge, or some other cause that exists in people's heads? Is it structural roadblocks, narrow job categories, and performance appraisal systems that force people to choose between the vision and their own self-interest? Or is it active resistance? What roadblocks exist because of people refusing to adapt and make demands inconsistent with the transformation? Sixth error, failing to create short-term wins. Real change takes time, and anything that involves a long-term commitment and investment of effort and resources requires some element of early and regular feedback of success. The key thing is to create the short-term win rather than merely hoping for it. Establish early goals, achieve them, and reward the team. In the context of data governance, a short-term win could be the solving of a problem related to inconsistent understanding of data. And if the problem is identified and solved and linked to the ongoing process of transformation, it allows the team to celebrate and demonstrates the vision in action. The seventh error, declaring victory too soon. It might be tempting to declare success at the first major performance improvement. Early wins is a powerful tool to keep up morale, but any suggestion that the job is done is usually a mistake. Until the changes are embedded in the organizational culture, old habits and practices can reassert themselves. And we have a table where we have examples of consequences of declaring victory too soon. One example scenario might be addressing data quality, and it might manifest in some kind of response. We've bought a data quality tool, so that's fixed, but in reality no one in the organization is actually reviewing or acting on data quality reports. Another scenario might be confusing capability delivery with implementation and operation, where something like a reporting stack for a regulation has been implemented, but no one is reviewing or acting on issues or actually following up to see that it still is actual with the regulatory requirements if they have changed. And the final scenario might be migration of data, where one only looks to see that the record counts match, so you say all the data in system X is now in system Y, but you fail to have the measures in place to actually see that the migration has been successful. So these are examples of consequences of declaring victory too soon. And the eighth and final error, neglecting to anchor changes firmly in the corporate culture. Organizations don't change. people change. Until the new behavior is embedded in the organizational culture as social norms and shared values, there is always risk of regressing to the old ways. The two keys to anchoring the change in the culture of the organization are consciously showing people how specific behaviors and attitudes have influence over performance and taking sufficient time to embed the change of approach in the next generation of management. Kotter's 8-stage process for major change. In addition to the 8 areas of change management, Kotter recognizes a set of common obstacles to change. Inward-focused cultures, paralyzing bureaucracy, parochial, that is narrow-minded policies, low levels of trust, lack of teamwork, arrogance, lack of or failure of leadership, and fear of the unknown. And to overcome these obstacles, Kotter proposes an 8-step model for major change, where every step is related to one of the areas mentioned previously. First step, establishing a sense of urgency. Step 2, creating the guiding council. Step 3, developing a vision and strategy. Step 4, communicating the change vision. Step 5, empowering broad-based action. Step 6, creating short-term wins. Step 7, consolidating change and producing more change. And Step 8, anchoring new approaches in the culture. The first 4 steps focus on softening entrenched status quo positions. Steps 5 to 7 introduce new practices and ways of working. And the final step locks the changes in place and provides the platform for future improvements. And jumping straight to steps 5 to 7 might be tempting, but the first 4 steps provide the foundation for sustaining the change. Establishing a sense of urgency. People will find any number of ways to avoid cooperating in something they think is unnecessary. A clear sense of urgency is required to motivate enough people to support a change effort. Several factors can create a sense of urgency: regulatory changes, threats to security of information, risks to business continuity, changes to business strategy, mergers and acquisitions, regulatory audit and litigation threats, changes to technology, changes to capability of competitors in the market, and media commentary about an organization's or an industry's information management issues. Sources of complacency. In this context, as mentioned, the opposite of urgency is complacency. And Kotter identifies 9 reasons why organizations and people can be complacent. Absence of a visible crisis, apparent success hides urgent problems, measuring staff against performance standards below external benchmarks or internal long-term goals, different performance metrics for different functional units, rigging or gaming of planning or internal goals, single source of performance feedback being faulty internal systems. Reporting problems is seen as being damaging to morale instead of as an input to evaluation. People ignoring or reinterpreting problems to make them go away, and happy talk from senior management. How much urgency is enough? A sufficiently compelling sense of urgency will help get the change process started and give it momentum. Too much urgency, on the other hand, can lead to a focus on firefighting instead of a thorough change effort. The guiding coalition. For a successful change process, 2 scenarios must be avoided: the lone CEO or the lone champion, and the low credibility council. 4 characteristics of an effective guiding council. Position power. Are enough key players on board so that those left out can't easily block progress? Expertise. Are all relevant points of view represented so that informed and intelligent decisions can be made? Credibility. Are enough people with good reputations on the team? Leadership. Are there enough leaders on the team to drive the change process? Key issues when forming a guiding council. How many people should be on the council? There's a fine line between a group that is too big and a group that leaves key people out of the loop. Who should be invited to join the Guiding Council? The coalition needs to include representatives from different stakeholder communities. The Council is, however, not simply a forum for gathering general stakeholder requirements. One key attribute of the members of the Guiding Council is their ability to influence their peers through formal authority or their status and experience. Behaviors and personalities to avoid. Another key attribute is behavior, and behaviors to avoid when choosing who to include in the Guiding Council include naysaying. The Guiding Council must be open to developing creative ideas, and naysayers can hamper a positive and open dialogue. Distractions. Members need to be focused on the change activity. Selfishness. The focus must be on the organization as a whole. No hidden agendas must be allowed to derail the efforts of the team. In addition to these behaviors, Kotter identifies 3 personalities or characters to avoid: the egos, who fill up the room and do not let others contribute; the snakes, who create and spread mistrust; and the reluctant players, who usually are senior figures who are not fully committed to the change process. Building trust. For a team to be effective, the 2 major foundations are trust and a common goal. One example of where trust might break down is the classic IT versus business divide. And to build trust, engage in team building activities to create and promote mutual understanding, respect, and caring. Common goals are not the same as the vision, but they should complement it. Combating groupthink. When building trust through mutual understanding, it is important to avoid the psychological effect known as groupthink. And signs of groupthink include that no one raises objections, no alternatives are offered, different perspectives are quickly dismissed and forgotten, and no one is actually actively seeking information that might challenge the current thinking. And methods to prevent groupthink include following the scientific method, effective cooperation so that groupthink does not become a shortcut to the results, encouraging brainstorming, leaders speak last, and developing multiple plans, forcing the team to rethink assumptions. Developing a vision and strategy. Many change management efforts make the mistake of relying on authority or micromanagement to get the change started. These methods are generally not successful. Unless the authority is absolute, some resistor to the change will refuse and test the authority. And micromanagement might work better at first, but will focus more and more on monitoring employee compliance and detailing practices as the change becomes more complex. A clear and compelling vision that allows change agents to break the status quo is the only approach that consistently works. 3 purposes of a good vision. A good vision shares 3 purposes. Clarification. A clear vision clarifies the direction of the change and can help avoiding endless debates by allowing the simple question, is the planned action in line with the vision? Motivation. When the initial steps of the change is painful, a clear motivation can give people an appealing cause to fight for. Alignment. Aligning and coordinating the actions of motivated people helps to avoid conflicts and endless meetings. Key characteristics of an effective vision. An effective vision should be imaginable, desirable, feasible, focused, flexible, and communicable. And key questions to ask is, if this became real, how would it affect customers, shareholders, and employees? Creating the effective vision. Creating a vision is an iterative process, and elements to include are the first draft, where a single individual makes an individual statement reflecting their dreams and the needs of the marketplace. The guiding coalition reworks the first draft to fit the wider strategic perspective. Teamwork is important. Encourage people to engage and contribute. The head and the heart must both be involved, meaning both analytical thinking and blue sky dreaming are required throughout the process. Messiness is a part of the process with much debate, rework, and change. Creating a vision is not done in one meeting. It must take the time it takes, and that might be weeks, months, or even longer. The end product is a direction for the future that is desirable, feasible, focused, flexible, and can be communicated in 5 minutes or less. Communicating the change vision. Problems that commonly arise with communicating the vision include failure to communicate enough or at all, poor communication, unwieldy wording that hides the sense of urgency, and not communicating far enough, the vision not reaching everyone who needs to know it. 7 key elements in effective communication. Kotter identifies 7 key elements in effective communication of vision. Keep it simple. It's easier to understand and connect with a vision articulated in a simple way. Use metaphor, analogy, and example. Use multiple forums. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Lead by example. Telling people one thing and doing the opposite sends a clear message that the vision can be ignored. Explain seeming inconsistencies and be explicit about why they are valid and for how long they will exist. Give and take. Two-way communication is always more powerful than one-way communication. And the sources for this lecture was chapter 17 of the Data Management Association Data Management Body of Knowledge. Thank you for your time, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.